Welcome back to another Boomer Bust Editorial. I'm your host, Terry, and today talking a little bit about Reuben Foster and his situation, but bigger than that, this idea of how the NFL is able to punish players. So if you haven't heard, we got Reuben Foster, former first round starting linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers. He just had the charges dropped from his domestic violence situation. And so prior to that, once he was brought in, the 49ers dropped him or released him, after he was in yet another incident. And there was waivers by the Redskins, and that started this whole thing with how they responded to that. And so just this whole thing. But we know Reuben Foster has had a past of run-ins with the law, especially on the domestic violence thing. But anyway, so I came across to me that the charges were dropped, and previously to this, he had other charges that end up being dismissed because, I don't know what she is. She's his on again, off again girlfriend. She had admitted to, falsely accusing him, trying to, get money or get back at him, whatever. And now these end up being dropped with the same, partner. So either way, there are other things he's done that have stuck. So it's not like he's never been charged with anything. But anyway, it was interesting to me because I'm just reading the article, and it reminded us that even though a player isn't charged or convicted, the NFL holds the right to punish those players. Now, that's been the case for a while, but to me, I just thought again, and I've thought this before, is that fair? Is that really fair? And so when you have a lot of discussion about Roger Goodell's power as commissioner, as it involves the Ray Rice case and all those different things, but also the Deflategate, the less serious stuff. And we talk about Roger Goodell's ability to be judge, jury, executioner, all that. He can be the independent arbitrator, all these things, all collectively bargained into the agreement. But still, is it fair? How can the NFL sit here and justify having the power or even punishing a player after they're exonerated? Maybe not the fact that they had a power to, but how do you justify doing it? And there's a number of cases, but the one that sticks out to me is the Ben Roethlisberger case. And that one I remember vividly because that's when I was just like, how does this make any sense? You go through the legal due process, and they say, okay, there's no wrongdoing here, but then you turn around and suspend them anyway. I don't understand. Now, I get that the actual reason you're doing it, especially nowadays, is to cover yourself. Because again, people don't care about justice or right or wrong. They don't care about fixing solutions. People just care about their pound of flesh. They just want to see somebody got in trouble, and then they leave it alone. And so the same thing with the Ray Rice conversation, the Kareem Hunt conversation. They don't care how many games you suspended them. They want, it would never be enough. And so they just want something severe to make it feel like it's severe and then move on. So anyway, Roethlisberger, he got suspended even after they decided he was not guilty of anything, and they still upheld the suspension. And so again, the real reason is to cover yourself, just to make it look like you're doing something. But more logistically, I just don't get, and morally, how they can continue to justify these things. Now, there hasn't been anything handed down on Foster per se yet, but they reserve the right to. And so if he ends up with a team and whatever, then, they can still suspend them. And I just don't see how that's justified. Now, in Foster's case, everybody's going to point to all these other things. And then when it's domestic violence, people are going to point to all these different things. Fine. That's, whatever. That's part of the discussion. But the fact is, when do you believe your players? And I'm not even making this a bigger societal discussion, which we could, but I'm making this about the NFL. When do you believe your players? When do they get the benefit of the doubt? And so the message that I hear is that, you act one way when the charges are brought up or the incident happens. And I get that. And you react. Maybe you cut them. Maybe you put them on IR, whatever you do. You got the commissioner's exempt list. But once you go through the due process and, they come out exonerated, when do you believe the player? When do you give them a vote of confidence? It's one thing for them to say, okay, there's a domestic violence issue. Reuben Foster said nothing happened, so we just gonna go business as usual until he gets in trouble. That's one thing. That doesn't look so good. But again, if you do something where you put them on the shelf, or even if you release them, once you figure out that, or it comes out that they're good, when do you believe the player? That's just my question. When do they get, to be justified? Because Ben Roethlisberger, and this was years ago, so most people don't remember it, or most casual fans, but you got dragged through the mud, accused of, I believe it was assault, but people are talking about rape, because people conflate those things together. And you got dragged through the mud, your name's dragged through the mud, all these different things. They go through the process, you find out you're good, and you still have to be suspended. And so you have to be punished basically for being accused of something. And not only the message it sends to the players of, we don't believe you, we don't give you the benefit of the doubt, but to me, it's that slippery slope, like I talk about with Kareem Hunt. The NFL created that situation a long time ago or the precedents where they can say, hey, you can get in trouble just for being blamed of being in trouble. Doesn't matter if you were actually in trouble, but we can still discipline and suspend you just because somebody said that you did something. And then you fast forward that and you wonder why we get incidents now where players are being, extorted in some way or another by fans or people that know them, because the threat exists that even if you didn't do it, you still get in trouble. And so there's a lot of things about the CBA that needs to be changed, and Goodell's power and all that. But this is one of the prevailing things that I always thought was crazy. And it just makes no sense to me. I mean, we'll see what they end up doing with Reuben Foster. But if anybody out there has the thought on how you can justify it, why should these players be penalized after being exonerated through the court law? So anyway, just my thoughts. Go to the comment section, let me know what you think, get the convo started, thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, thank you for listening.